DC's Absolute Universe expands with the addition of Absolute Wonder Woman #1. A character that, as details trickled out, was said to have been raised in hell, have a nemesis lasso, and was also shown to have a giant cloud sword, and a black skeletal Pegasus. The intrigue began to build. Just what would this version of Wonder Woman be like? Would she maintain the core? Would she be too edgy? How would she fit into this new universe that, as DC All in Special revealed, was said to be powered by a dark side energy? What would this new environment do to Diana, who is viewed by many as this avatar of peace and balance and compassion? Well, issue #1 released, now we can discuss it in detail, which means because we're so close to that release, spoilers. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and let's explore Absolute Wonder Woman #1. Wonder Woman always leaves me with a lot of thoughts, so I can't wait to hear yours and how you took this one. There's a lot to discuss. This comic is written by Kelly Thompson with art by Hayden Sherman, colors by Jordi Belair. From the outset, Thompson discussed concerns about making sure that the core of the character was visible, and it's very interesting to know about what the idea and attitude was going into this. Thompson stated, "I almost had to tell him no," talking about taking this assignment on from Scott Snyder, "because I couldn't figure it out. This is a hard character. I don't know that she's harder than Batman and Superman, but I did find there were very few takes that I was throwing at the board that I thought worked, because most of them depowered her in some way or made her darker, because you're trying to get to something new, and none of that felt right to me. Someone could tell a really great angry Wonder Woman story, but it wasn't going to be me. So I started stripping stuff back. Like, how do we build her a very different life where she still comes out with the same soul intact? She has different weapons and different tools and a different way of looking at things, but she has maintained that core that we all know and love and really expect and deserve from Wonder Woman. So bear all of that in mind, for if one bumps up against that, it's going to impact how they view the story. The story itself is divided into two main parts that are then intercut between different time periods, the present and the past. The opening takes place in the present in Gateway City, where a horde of monsters has suddenly descended, appearing alongside a very mysterious ship in the sky. One newscaster describes it as a literal UFO, as opposed to what, a metaphorical one? Monsters coming from the sky. It's here that Wonder Woman appears to do battle, getting these big, gorgeous splashes that showcase all of her new look and assets. We also get the narration, which is not by her, but rather by Circe, who the comic will shortly reveal as her adoptive mother. And so the groundwork for who Wonder Woman is begins to be laid. Once upon a time, there was a princess, and the princess had all the gifts any princess could hope to have: beauty, grace, compassion, kindness, wisdom, the ability to outrun a hellhound and conjure the darkest of magics. Things every princess needs when she was raised in hell. This opening sequence does several things. It shows Diana's new look, the regalia, and the kind of energy that's coming off of that. The color scheme is meant to evoke her new origin, that coming from hell. Those are hell colors, darkness, and mileage varies. For me, I like the look. I think it's cool. For others, it may be trying too hard, or evoking too many other things they're familiar with. Guts wants his sword back. The dialogue is meant to be a play on fairy tale tropes, with some light humor as the traditional princess traits are added to. However, Diana is shown to genuinely be innately good from birth, from infancy. She's just naturally perfect. She's untouched or unsullied or changed by any of the environment she finds herself in, almost like Cinderella. In that way, depending upon how this is read, those same traits could be perceived as playing into the stereotype of a woman needing to be all things at all times. A perfect, untouched goddess, which varies. For some, that could be a fun power fantasy. It could lead into what Thompson was going for, that Wonder Woman is just untouched no matter what the environment, she's always Wonder Woman. For others, it may come across as flat and a missed opportunity to play with some interesting character development that could still lead to Wonder Woman ending up in the same place. What will largely determine where one lands on that is how they interact with the flashbacks, and how everything comes together in the build. For following the intro, it then cuts back to the past, to the wild Isle of Hell, the prison of the great sorceress Circe, who at this point is given more details as to her backstory. Not some of the things like how she ended up there or what she did, but those could be revealed later. Those are some seeds of a mystery. The first issue focuses on the coming of Apollo, this to leave baby Diana with Circe. So it does still show some Greek ties, even though they don't really go into them or play with them all that much in this issue. We do get to see an adorable baby Diana. The artwork does a lot to make her look cherubic, almost like an old painting, and it works the story's favor given the mythological elements being incorporated. It goes with the vibe, basically. This baby is Diana, Princess of Themyscira. She is the last of the Amazons, and she has been taken from them by my father, Zeus, as punishment for their crimes against the gods. Some of that seems like a radical interpretation of the text. Her home is now hell. You are her warden. I'm unclear if that's meant to be a meta joke or just an in-narration joke. Either way, it's one of those moments where Circe is talking much more colloquially than some of the other characters, but those are more rare. They're not the dominant. It happens at moments where it appears to be meant to be humorous. She may never again be reunited with her Amazon sisters, and they will be imprisoned for eternity when their service to my father ends. And you may never say the word Amazon again. He's trying to hide it, but he's afraid of her. Why? This moment of the banning of the word and the fear of Diana's potential is important, and we will come back to it, so remember it. The story then shifts to surrounding motherhood and Circe's experience with it. A lot of the flashback is Circe coming to care for Diana, despite herself, lured in by the child's innate traits of goodness, as she negotiates how much to protect her from versus what to teach her. And the reader is treated to many moments of cute baby Diana. These sequences are sweet, and they do a lot to not only endear the reader to Diana, but also to the relationship between Circe and her, that mother-daughter element. And the focus on mothers and daughters is not one that appears quite as frequently in superhero comics as a generalization. Of course it occurs, but to have it so foregrounded, particularly in a Wonder Woman story, is a strong choice. Now, as to the conclusions that the story comes to about motherhood, they can at times come across as a bit Hallmark cookie cutter, in terms of being a bit more cliche. How you fall in love with a child is by raising it. You have moments like that, and the fact that the relationship depicted is largely bereft of conflict. At least in the first issue, as the mother of more than one daughter feels very idyllic. And the first issue would be a place to seed some of that if it's going to be a factor. However, Diana is presented so far as a perfect child with no complaints or rebellion or pushback. There's also not really a sense of concern or frustration from Circe about how to navigate what she can and can't share with Diana. There are moments where she can't show things, but there's no emotional connection or struggle. They're just moments that occur. And it does come across as if there is a struggle there that's not fully being depicted. There's a lot of depth present in the circumstances that the narrative has yet to tap into, but it is there, and this is just the first issue. Perhaps later ones will really dive into that. We'll have a whole rebellion issue, which could be very fun, especially given the environment. Maybe there's an issue where she runs away from the island or something. Who knows? We'll see what the future holds. But the seeds and building blocks are already fun. One trait Diana has is curiosity, as she does ask questions as to what's going on. She's not shown to be rebelling again in this first issue, but it is there. The story cuts from her childhood back to the present, and in these moments, Sherman's art once more gets the chance to shine, as do Belaire's colors. The stylized look really adds to the monsters and the feeling that the environment is deteriorating. And if one likes the look of Diana, these moments really showcase that cool factor. You have great panels like where she's standing before the Harbinger, before she faces off against it, that really sell the big sword because it looks so small in comparison. The proportions and the veins in the monster's arms really highlight the idea that this could be a tough fight. Let them fight. And the fight sequence is well done, it's dynamic, kinetic, and Diana does have to struggle a little bit. It's not something she just does with ease. And you also get some hints as to some past adventures she's probably had against monsters like this. So again, some little seeds and the promise that this series will have much giant monster fighting action. The final flashback is Diana coming into her heritage, saying the word that has been denied her. It's presented as the one thing that both Diana and Circe knew would change things, but they've been dancing around it. And it is one of the more profoundly emotional moments of the work. The art also does a lot to lift the moment and sell the impact. And the choice to do the classic hero beaten down, flashing back to when she learned the truth about herself to access her full potential, adds to the rising action of the scene. Diana reclaiming her stolen heritage is a strong moment and motivation. It's one of those things where the reader needs to kind of make that connection and fill in that gap, which is not inherently a bad thing. Not every story needs to hold one's hand for every single detail. The threads are there to be connected. However, it must be noted that this is one moment where the natural anger of the situation given the circumstances, feels like it could have been a bolstering to the narrative. Not that I need to overwhelm or take away from Diana, but rather be something that could actually add to her character, while still having Diana have the base traits of compassion and kindness, but have her be impacted by the emotions and the environment and the injustices thrust upon her, losing her people, having her past hidden from her by one of the people she trusts the most. Necessary or not, the very name of what she is denied. It seems like it would call for some more overt displays of anger, not to the point where she's embittered, but more as something to work through, an earned edge. Could cause that rage to feel very significant. It could be something that she could then overcome, allowing her innate nature to shine through. Because of this changed environment, this new world, it's something that she needs to come to. Again, that different route to getting to the same place. It would also allow her to feel a bit less perfect and idyllic, the idea that she has some struggles, that even though she is a princess goddess that she has to overcome. It could be potentially aspirational, inspiring, and also deal with that core concept of balance for Diana, the fact that she is meant to represent so many of these different things, and how does that come together, and how does she settle back at those core traits? There is a potential danger, though it may not occur, if Diana does not have that much internal struggle, that she could come across as flat if the narrative is not there to rise up with lots of exciting other plot points like action and mystery and intrigue. Although it may, and for some that may be where they want the plot to focus and not on the character work, so mileage is going to vary. Or some may feel that the balance is already inherently good. And of course, perhaps all of this will be explored later. This is still the first issue, but this is just impressions and thoughts that I had while reading it. This first issue is trying to get through a lot. Diana's new history, her relationship with Circe, the monsters, her new powers. So there's a lot of decisions to be made on where to focus and how to demonstrate the idea that Wonder Woman is still Wonder Woman. So this issue is trying to find that balance of making sure that everybody gets a taste of all the things and focus on where this creative team wants the story to focus, which appears to be on making sure people grasp that Diana is still at her core her, and that also she's gonna fight a bunch of cool monsters. And the final panel of her with the crackling nemesis lasso against the red background is very cool, and it makes the character seem imposing. The hook for this issue seems to lie more in the concept of this new Diana, the idea of her new status quo and whether one likes it and wants to see her inside of this environment. The first issue doesn't delve too much into the mysteries that it sets up, but they are there. There's not pulling focus. The whole where are the Amazons? Why was Circe cast out? What adventures has Diana had? Why are they so afraid of her? What is her inherent power? There is also a feminist component present. It's interwoven with the plot in terms of Diana's inherent power and people trying to keep her from it. That's one of the more obvious aspects. Miles will vary in how blunt or meaningful one finds it, and part of that will be determined by how it develops. So there is a lot left to explore. But for the first issue, again, the hook seems to be more, do you like this idea of Diana, and do you want to go on this journey with her? Are you ready to join the last Amazon? Well, some may find a Hell Witch Diana edgy in the negative sense, some may find it simply cool. And it does have some impactful and interesting sequences. One subject positioning always impacts how they interact with a work, so there are moments that may have more drawn my focus or stuck with me that may be different for somebody else. As mentioned, different strokes for different folks. It must be said, the most important review for me of this book came from my daughter, which was she said this was the coolest comic she'd ever read and they should make an entire series of it, which means I'll now be there every month for mother-daughter kaiju time. On the whole, the premise of Diana going around fighting these giant monsters is fun, and there are some interesting threads and mysteries to uncover, and the bones are there for some extremely strong character work. I'm curious to see how it all evolves, especially Diana's inner workings and her inner life. Wonder Woman can be a difficult character because there are so many external expectations placed upon her. Sometimes the idea or concept of what Wonder Woman should be or what people think she should be can take away from the circumstances she actually finds herself in and the way her character would interact inside of them. So in some ways she can be difficult. It all depends upon which direction one wants to take her from and what is the core. Wonder Woman just always makes me think deep thoughts because she is a very interesting and complex character, or she can be depending upon how one approaches her. So I want to hear your thoughts. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was it what you expected? Did you meh it? Do you like the new look? Do you like the premise? Are you curious about the mysteries? Do you think the character work was excellent and I'm straight tripping? Are you on board the absolute train? Your thoughts, I want to hear them. Please leave them down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.